各位，在特朗普政府期间，美国与中国的科技竞争进入了一个新的高峰。其中一个最具争议的事情就是针对 TikTok 的禁令。特朗普总统曾多次声称 ，TikTok 的存在不仅是对美国国家安全构成威胁，还涉及中国政府可能会利用该应用收集美国用户的数据，进一步加强对美国社会的操纵。在特朗普政府提出封禁 TikTok 的同时，政府与该应用的幕后交易却引发了极大的争议。今天这个视频讨论的正是这个事件背后的复杂真相。特朗普为什么要封禁 TikTok 呢？这一举措是否真的出于国家安全的考虑呢？还是背后另有深层次的政治和经济的动机呢？2019年，特朗普政府开始对 TikTok 采取强硬的立场，要求字节跳动将其美国业务出售给美国公司，否则将明令封禁。政府明确地表示 ，TikTok 存在严重的国家安全隐患，尤其是其背后中国的监控和数据收集的行为。然而，在随后的谈判中，特朗普逐渐改变了立场，反而推动了一项为倒计时交易的协议。这一项协议的核心是 TikTok 的美国业务要给一个由甲骨文、银湖资本和安德森·霍洛维茨等美国公司组成的投资者联盟来控制。这一项交易的背后到底隐藏了什么呢？是否真的如特朗普所言，这一笔交易能够保护美国的国家安全吗？还是说政府的行为更像是一次利益输送呢？帮助特朗普的支持者是否会获得巨大的商业利益呢？很多人开始质疑，特朗普是否把一个国家安全问题当作了一个筹码，来达成自己的政治和经济的目的。我们必须关注的是，政府在干预商业领域时的界限。在许多保守派看来，政府不应该轻易插手私营企业的决策，特别是在没有明确证据表明国家安全受到严重威胁的情况下。而特朗普与字节跳动的交易中，政府与商业利益紧紧联系，这无疑让人对其动机产生了疑问。特朗普与中国的关系也在其中起了关键的作用，特别是在中美贸易战的背景下， TikTok 成为了这一场较量的一个象征。更重要的是，政府如何利用自己的权力来影响市场和企业的行为呢？这一场封禁 TikTok 的斗争是否能给美国带来更多的利益呢？还是说只会加剧两国之间的对抗，甚至损害美国自身的创新环境呢？这些问题值得我们去深思。在接下来的讨论中，我们将看到特朗普政府封禁 TikTok 的真正动机，交易背后的利益博弈，并探讨这一事件对中美科技竞争和全球商业环境的深远影响。让我们来看一下视频。
President Trump says a TikTok deal is essentially done and that China talks are progressing.
We're very close to deals on all of it. And my relationship with China is very good. You know, we have a trade deal with them. We had a very good meeting the other day. And it sounds like they've approved TikTok, and TikTok is a tremendous amount of money for the United States.
So under the arrangement, TikTok's U.S. business would be controlled by an investor consortium, including Oracle, Silver Lake, and Andreessen Horowitz. That's according to reports. The deal could set the stage for President Trump and Xi Jinping to hold their first in-person meeting of Donald Trump's second term. So we got the big phone call today, David Bonson. We got all sorts of issues on the table. We got the trade stuff. TikTok, is it done? The president seems to suggest they got the approval. Maybe some other things we're saying it's a framework still. I don't really know. What do you think about it?
You know, the whole thing bothers me to some degree because, first of all, Congress actually did something they barely ever do last year. They acted and passed a law. They got signed into law the way you're supposed to in the Constitution.
They still remember how to do that, do they?
They do, but then the problem is the president just decided to do his own thing, and he keeps kind of punting the enactment. Now, look, I have all kinds of opinions about government involvement in private business, and I'm concerned on this affair, not because I want to be defensive of TikTok, because I don't. I can't stand how much teenagers use it. But but I do not want the president of the United States, whoever it is, bringing in business allies into a private deal, saying the government's going to make a lot of money on this, like playing role of investment banker. This is just not the way us conservatives have generally thought that the government's supposed to interact in the business sector.
I mean, it's been a big issue, Jackie. We've talked about it with Intel. We've talked about it with TikTok. On the defense side, they've done some of this as well. On the other hand, TikTok, if we believe the congressmen who passed these laws, it's a national security concern. I don't know where that all factors into the deal we have here. What do you think?
Well, I think it is a national security concern, but I agree with David. And I was a little hesitant to be on board with the Intel thing, although I can kind of understand the circular argument that through the CHIPS Act, they got all this money from us and they can't necessarily claw it back. So the government's trying to go after it in this way. You can make that argument. I don't want to go there right now.
It's a
separate conversation. Okay. But with respect to this, I agree with you in that even with the national security concerns, I would like to see this be a completely private transaction, no government involvement on either side. And I know it's important for China to maintain its stake as well, because everybody wants to have their hand in this. And that's exactly what I don't like about it. But I also realize without China still being involved in it some way, that could have an impact on the algorithm that they do sell, and that is the most valuable. Many have said you can't replicate that actual algorithm, and so you need that for the value to be there. So I think more details have to come out on, because what is coming out so far seems a little hazy on what this actually is, what they discussed today, what was approved per the president's Truth Social post. But
the corporate side of it, they're sort of coalescing around this idea it's going to be 80% plus ownership on the U.S. side, and that the board would be, American-dominated board. But they haven't said anything very clear to me, and I'm not a tech guy, but on the algorithm piece, Lydia, that's the key when it comes to the big questions of where does your data go and how does the content you see get manipulated, perhaps in ways that are disadvantageous to us and advantageous to China. I haven't seen anything firm on that, except I've heard China say it's going to be a sort of licensing agreement with ByteDance, which to me gets us back to square one. It's still ByteDance running the algorithm.
And
so how do you...
Can I just add to that? Because it is on what you're saying. To me, it just seems like it's, okay, well, now we have some U.S. oversight here, but they're still involved.
I want not oversight. I want somebody to go into the algorithm and literally rip out the China guts of it. But I don't know if that's what we're going to get.
No, because the whole part is, can we really trust them as a business partner, right? As long as ByteDance is involved, the CCP is overseeing. And the question still remains, what are they doing with all the data collection and the management and how they're manipulating it? Even though Oracle, an American company, maintains the server, and that's often been pointed to as a factor that, that we can trust TikTok. TikTok is always so quick to say, listen, Oracle maintains a server, and that server is based, I believe it's in Texas or Arizona. And so therefore it's on American soil. It's not leaving the United States. The fact of the matter is that ByteDance, which is under the oversight of the CCP, still would have access to it in some degree. And that continues to raise concerns for me. So I go back to the national security concerns. I can just tell you, speaking for myself, I wasn't on TikTok before, and I'm not sure I'm going to rush to join TikTok now.
The American TikTok. I see Gary Gary is almost quaking over here, so we got to get him into the conversation. How do you read this?
Free market conservatives, all I know is I've been watching. Let's see, we're going to take a 10% in Intel. Oh, and by the way, Mr. NVIDIA, would you take $5 billion of your bucks and go invest in Intel so we make a
Wait, was that the
money?
Coincidence you were talking about?
That was the coincidence.
This is in Washington, D.C. Look, it
is not funny.
And now this. Hey, Larry, you get 20%. Hey, John, you get 40%. You get 20%. Oh, by the way, just remember me. I don't want government involved. They can be part of some sort of negotiation, but get away. I don't want government ownership. I want free markets. Get away. There should be a big separation between that. Look, I love the fact that the president, businessman, but this is getting to be too much, and I keep asking, what's next?
Brass tacks, and this is what Scott Besson said. He said the president was willing to pull the plug on TikTok for national security reasons. Are you a pull the plug guy? Like, the best result here, if this is, as Tom Cotton says, Tom Cotton's the guy who says it's a big national security threat, Should we just pull the plug on this thing?
If there is definitive threat, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Why not? Look, the number one job of the President of the United States is to protect the country, whether it's via military from another place or digital, you name it. So fine and dandy. My big issue, once again, is pretty much every day I have to go on my radio show to talk about what the government is involved in next. And I don't want that. I want to talk about corporate America and the great medical breakthroughs and the technological advancements of companies. Government, be over here.
Aside,
but see, we can't talk about the national security threat right now when we just got done pretending that the Nippon Steel deal was for national security.
Right.
You can't say T-shirts being made in Vietnam is a national security issue and then keep credibility. But, you know, it's interesting. You're talking about the concern of the CCP having access to the data. I would imagine we're 5 for 5 in being opposed to that, being afraid of that. If Barack Obama was president right now, would everyone be okay with the United States having access to the algorithm, controlling the algorithm? I mean, it was not that long ago the conservatives were afraid not just of foreign governments, but the domestic government controlling such a thing.
You just made my point.
But Gary, your point is so brilliant about the names that start get thrown out, like, hey, you get a little piece, you get a piece. And I think you said a couple names hypothetically, Larry, John. Mark Andreessen was a supporter of the campaign. Larry Ellison is a supporter of the president. It's not a good look.
And by the way, this is a good look. This is not a rib on them. Larry Ellison's brilliant, Mark Andreessen's. They have created more wealth than beyond the beyond.
And how is the algorithm going to change when the app is not going to have to be re-downloaded?
Press a button here and press a button.
And I also just want to add, and I've brought up this point before. First, President Trump at the end of his term wanted to yank TikTok. He wanted to ban it at the end of his first term, but then he ran out of time. And then he had experience with it during the campaign, and he changed his mind. For me, and you know, I support the president on many issues. This was a bit of a flip-flop.
Well, it was a big
So I
flip-flop.
agree in pulling the plug altogether. If you think it's a national security problem and you don't want to have it here, and they're still going to have a paw in it, then
But I don't think they can pull the plug unless they can prove and establish it's a national security risk. I trust Senator Cotton. They need to make the case to the American people. My only point is you can't call everything a national security risk and then expect us to believe you when you say something is.
I would say on that one, just given what Cotton has done so far and the fact that he persuaded a bipartisan set of people in Congress to vote to say this thing's got to go, that struck me as pretty persuasive. And I give President Trump credit, by the way, as being one of the first people to speak up and say we should do something about TikTok. When he did that back in the day, that was a controversial position. And he got people on that issue. Now, he has flipped, right? He's gone the other way.
Well,
but he apparently that pull the plug option is still there for him, according to Scott.
And on the flipping, I just want to point out that when he wanted to pull the plug, Joe Biden said, no, TikTok should stay. And then when Trump flipped and said, no, we should find a way to work it out, Joe Biden said we should ban it. So you've got this flip-flopping and this polarization.
It speaks to Gary's point about the government not being involved in it because they have their own partisan agendas. TikTok was very helpful for the president in his campaign.
Very.
But you know what I'm happy about? I'm happy that the two leaders of the biggest economies in the world are at least talking, and maybe we don't have to talk about trade deals anymore or tariffs anymore, and maybe, who knows, he can get China to open up the markets to us. I mean, they have 1.5 billion. Who knows whether there's going to be some good outcome out of this? I doubt it. I've been studying Xi, and he's quite the communist guy, but hey, you never know.
You never know.
Be good to see.
Gary putting a little nice bow on this.
Why not?
Optimistic possibility for the future.
What I am okay with, I'll just say this, that the president is doing is he's trying to incentivize through tax breaks and setting up business structures here to shepherd away some of that manufacturing from China. I don't want to see the direct involvement, but you can make it more advantageous for companies to want to manufacture and do business here. I am all for that.
Been going
but
on
don't
for
think
a while.
she wasn't thinking about it on the phone call, too.
We've been seeing a lot of manufacturing move to Taiwan and Vietnam throughout the last few years. Companies are getting it because of the restrictions there, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that going forward. And that takes away having to worry about what's China going to do next.
Agreed.